Today's episode has one of the most fascinating stories about how somebody could start playing a musical instrument against pretty much all the odds, really. So it's a great story. So have a listen to this. Today's episode, I shall be talking to Pantelis Gertsos. Pantelis, how are you?
Very well, very well. Thanks.
Good. It's lovely to see you again. It's been a few years.
Yes.
So look, traditional first question. What do you do?
Okay, I'm a musician, and more specific, a guitarist.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah. It sounds like there's more things that you do, so.
Yes. I think that every musician nowadays has to do more than one thing.
Yes. That's true. So, yeah, carry on. Sorry.
Okay. I run a network of schools calling the Music4, music4.net. So most of the time I teach. This is something that I'm doing the last 30 years of my life, almost every day. But also arranging and producing some concerts with guests, several guitarists, and not only guitarists, several bands from the US or other places in Europe. And I also run the LCME exams nowadays, the RGT and the LCM exams. I am the representative in Greece.
Cool. That sounds like you've got a lot on. You're doing a lot. So tell me, you're interested in playing, you're interested in music. When did that sort of start? How young were you?
Well, yes. At 14 years old, 15 years old, it was probably the first and the biggest surprise in my life. And yes, it's a very strange story, starting from the very first day that I just hold the guitar. And
so how did you hold the guitar? How did that happen? Did somebody just give you a guitar, or did you sort?
Well, my nephew had lessons back in 1985. So he just forget his guitar in my room. The very first day that I played the guitar, they didn't, my parents had to break almost the door because I locked the door and I wanted to stay with this guitar. Yes, I wanted to stay.
I can believe it.
And they had to break the door because I didn't answer any of their questions. So I stayed in my room, I don't know, for so many hours. A strange thing. But even after that, I had problems buying my own guitar because there was always, my parents wanted me out of music. And I don't know if they knew something then, but so the very first years I had problems with that.
Yes, because you did tell me a story about getting a guitar, which I thought it's always sort of stuck with me. So perhaps you could tell me, it involves a computer somewhere along the lines.
Yes. This was, because all my savings, I wanted to have guitar lessons. So I started practicing, and one day my first teacher asked me to buy a book. And I asked my father then, would you give me money? Because I need the Berkeley book, the Method Unless. He said, no, we don't have money. But the very next day, he bought me a computer. That was something very, very expensive back in the 1980s. So he bought me a computer. It was like that game with the ball coming, and you just had to ball.
Yeah.
That was happening at this computer. So I stay the very first night. play this game everywhere. Yes, for I don't know for how many hours. But the very next morning, the book, I had the idea of, I wanted the book. So they didn't give me the money. So I went to my school, and the very first thing I did is go to my classroom and say to all the kids there, I'm selling my computer. Imagine I was 15 years old. So they told me how much. And the only thing I did was I calculate that I need that money for my book. I want a notebook, a pencil. Yes, that's it. So I calculate those three things, and I went back to my home and bring the computer. So you don't want to know what happens when my father found out what Yes, it was a very big day.
Oh, I bet it was. But did that sort of confirm your passion for the guitar? In other words, did you sort of think, well, I'm not going to buy him another computer, just let him get on with playing the guitar?
I think since that day, I was more by myself. I found out that probably that was the beginning of something different in my life.
Yeah.
Because slowly I had to choose my friends because I had less time to spend, go out. I was free until then. I was free to do whatever I want. I was out almost every day. I grew up in the west part of Athens that was so-and-so. And when I mean so-and-so, it was a tough neighbor. That means.
Right.
But I was free to do whatever I want. Go out at the club, at the billiard center, etc., playing games. But from the moment that I decide to go on to music and try to start to find out what the guitar is, always I had to choose. Since that day, I'm choosing my friends. I'm choosing everything, the music I listen, everything.
Yeah. So that's a real change. I mean, that story, I've not really heard anything quite like that. And I've interviewed a lot of people, I've had a lot of people tell me some very unusual things that happened to them, where weird sort of coincidences happen, and, they end up with the guitar or, the drum kit or something. But not some, and sometimes there was a sort of they had to get over a parental problem. But yours, I think, is the most amazing.
Something, I can tell you one more story that is very interesting. And this is something that probably sometimes you met people that can change your life, and you don't know in which way.
Yes.
But, just to tell you this thing first, that at the age of 15 years old, we all here in Greece had to make an ID. So we used to go at the police station back then, and probably with our parents, etc. So I will never forget that I was 15 years old, probably playing the guitar for a few months, and I went to the police station, and the police asked my name, asked when I was born, etc., where I live exactly, and what are you doing? And instead of saying I'm a student, I said I'm a musician. And since that day, the policeman did that. He was writing, and then just looked me like this. And he was the first man in my life that said musician. So
amazing.
My ID never wrote that I'm a student and musician since then.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah.
Vic, I will tell you this, and then I will stop and asking your questions. But what I told you before, that there are some people that change the way, change your life in a magical way. Probably it's a coincidence that they were at the exact place at the right time. Anyway, something happened in my life back at the age of 19 years old, and I said it's enough with music. I want to do something else, and that is a great story. I decided to go back to school and be a captain in a boat, because I thought that probably that is something like an adventure. But unfortunately, I was old enough, I had finished the school, so I had to do the 2 last years of the high school again. So even if I was 19 years old, I start doing phone calls at the Ministry of Education. So the secretary there accept me and she listened to me. And when I told her, it was a very big lie, that all of my life, I wanted to be a captain in a boat, all of my life. So apologize for what I did, but please send me back to school. And she said, let me talk to someone else, let me talk. And I was insist, please send me back to school. So even if I was 19 years old, she sent me back to do the high school in a specific high school that was only for people that wanted to go to the Navy. And the very first day when I joined the other students, I was 3 years older, and they didn't accept me there. But I had always a paper, an official paper from the Ministry of Education that shows them that they need to accept me as a new student. So I stayed there for 2 or 3 months, and then one day we had to make an essay for something I don't remember. There's not the problem there. So I make an essay, blah blah blah, writing a few things, and then the next day the minister of the school, the director of the school, she was a woman, and she invited me in her office. So I will never forget, Vic, the sound that I was 19 years old. I went in her office and she locked the door, the director of the school. She locked the door and she told me, please have a seat. I would like to listen to your story. I said, all my life I wanted to be a captain in a boat ship. And she said, okay, let me start first. So she told me that she was married, she had 2 kids, she doesn't love her husband, but her father, since she was a child, she was a truck driver and went all around Europe feeling free, doing things, etc., etc. So she told me that instead of choose this way of life, she married a man that she didn't love. She has 2 children. She had 2 children, but her life is more or less like a prison for her. So she was so honest with me, and I had to tell her my real story. And at the end of the day, she told me that, okay, we will make a bet right now. Either you will give yourself a second chance to be a musician. Otherwise, if you will decide to come again to my school, I will not need your paper. You will join your class without having to show everyone this ID that they gave you. So I went back to my house, walking for, I don't know for how many kilometers, and I said, okay, I will give a second chance then.
Amazing.
But I don't know this woman. I don't know who is she. It's just like a dream.
Yeah, that is very, very strange.
Very strange. Just so anyway.
I mean, for somebody to turn around and actually say that to you, I mean, I've heard the opposite of that, where people have been told, I know you're quite a good musician, but really you should spend more time doing science. I've heard that a lot. But or spend more time doing your maths, but not sort of the other way around, where look, here you are in my school, it sounds like because of you must have written something that she must have noticed and thought, hang on a minute.
Oh, yes.
There's something very, very important here that she picked up on, that resonated with her. You know, she sort of thought, yeah, look, you know, he wants to do something. And she obviously could probably see through what you were thinking. You know.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. I mean, why did you want, this slightly off topic, but why did you want to be a captain of a boat?
Probably because even now, through art, I want to escape the reality. And I always thought that the captain can easily escape the reality.
Yeah.
Yes. Can be alone like an artist is always.
That makes absolute sense. I mean, if if there were problems at home or you just weren't happy with where you were, and you were obviously searching for your, it's like that sort of inner calling, isn't it? The thing that makes you feel like, this is what I am, like you got that guy to
I don't think that this has to do with problems, Vic. I think that this has to do with probably some personalities, someone that would like always to find the next thing. What is the next thing? Give me the next adventure, give me something. I found this now through art, but I think that always in my life, I need to see something. I need to see something else. Please bring me something else.
Yeah.
I can do this through music and through.
Yes. Okay. Let me just sort of reframe what I'm thinking. If you're living in a situation where that isn't possible, because you look at something and you think the opportunities aren't there, where you live, or the type of life that's around, because it was quite, when you grew up, the political system was quite repressive, wasn't it?
Yes.
That's what I mean. It's like from that. I can't. What was it called? The time of the dictators? No, what was the time of the generals or something? Was it in Greece? What is that? What it's called?
Yes, early 70s. Yes, late 60s and early 70s. Yes.
So that was very repressive, and if you wanted to see new things and experience different things in your life, that's not going to happen in a regime that is so, well, I'll use that word, locked down, which is, but yeah.
I think that always are difficulties, but I strongly believe that if someone can focus on an idea or a dream, then he can easily overcome the problems, easily or more difficult, or cannot see the problems, or can live in a different. It's like games with time, like passing to another level, and then you just need to wait until they will reach you. All the others will reach.
Yeah, I think that's really good, because I think that's really true. I think, as you say, if you've got a vision or a dream, as you say, a focus on something that may not match with, other people turn around and say that's ridiculous. You can't possibly, that's just not on. And of course, a lot of people are sort of what we would call risk averse. They don't like to take risks. They don't like anything to upset the natural order of things. And most people are like that, aren't they?
Recently, I saw a video from a guitar player, and he was giving a guidance to his students, and make me laugh, because he was insisting and said that twice or three times that, look, whenever I go out and play, I programming every note I am playing. I will play, because I don't want to be exposed. he was I don't want to be exposed. Imagine, he's a teacher that is teaching the art of music, the art of music, and he was insisting that I don't want to be exposed, so I will program all my solos, note by note, note by note. And I said, this is crazy, man.
It is.
Don't do that. No. Change now. Change it right now.
Yes, exactly. So that's hit on something really interesting. You know, when I started learning guitar, obviously in the UK, there was no, you know, you couldn't, you had to just work things out off the record. There's nothing available. The books were wrong. You know, there are a couple of music books, but they're all in the wrong key. And they were written by some person playing piano. So, you know, he had a Beatles songbook and it was, you know, all the songs were just ridiculous. It was just completely wrong. So you had to work everything out. But of course, there was that attitude of, obviously, I was lucky that, you know, I grew up in an area where there were, you know, lots of famous musicians had been living there before they were famous, you know, the Stones and whatever, you know, not far away from lots of great sort of musicians. So you sort of, it was sort of there. It was sort of in the air that it was possible. But there was that attitude that everything was up for grabs. Everything was possible. You didn't know how you were going to get there. You didn't know how you were going to get so good as this guy or that guy, but you knew that these people were actually similar to you. Most of them had terrible, you know, backgrounds. There was nothing. They weren't privileged. They didn't have lots of things given to them or anything. They had to work it out for themselves. And it was that thing that you were always exposed to problems, right? And you had to just think on your feet all the time. Music was like that, you know, and you were always trying new things, mixing different styles of music together. And we were lucky here in the UK because we had places to play and stuff. But there was a lot of mix of different musical styles. And to hear that from somebody, you know, I just think it's amazing. It's just so, and actually says quite a lot about what a lot of music education has become, actually. Because the guitar has become more taught like the sort of classical, not classical guitar, but, you know, contemporary guitar. There's a lot of it that sounds much more like somebody would have taught classical violin, you know, like, well, that's what you've got to do. And this is the way, you know, you can't get through this because he did it like that. And it's like, well, everything was like, you worked something out and you didn't quite get it right, but you had to sort of work out and think, oh, this sounds okay. You know, this solo, you know, Hendrix was doing this or whatever, but I have no idea what he did there. Let's just make something up.
I don't know, Vic, because probably it's something so personal and you need to have your ears open.
Yeah.
I mean that I will never forget that I was standing like a maniac, and I was not lucky, but I had my ears open. So I don't know if I told you something that changed now that we're talking about the guitar. Something that really changed the way I'm looking the guitar, and this is something that I was discussing also with some of the artists that visit me here. And imagine that there are very famous artists. We will go on this in a while. But once I saw an interview of Miles Davis, and he said that with his voice,
yes,
with his voice, that I cannot understand all those musicians that they are going to a school and they think that they will be musicians without ever going to a theater, without reading poetry, without reading a book, without going to the theater or to a museum. They will never be an artist. So I was very lucky, and once I was at the Tate Gallery, and it was a Picasso painting, drawings. So I said, okay, I will go. Definitely, I need to see a Picasso. And it was a painting that I had no idea what it is. So I went closer, and it was a reading down there that a face has two eyes, two ears, a nose, and a mouth. Wherever I have those elements, it's a face. And then very next day I said, are you crazy, man? You need to have to play all your arpeggios all in one position. Just play the notes. It's like you're drawing. So from this day, I feel so free to experiment with the guitar. This was a very crucial moment. I start playing the notes. It's the notes. Wherever you play the notes, you learn the notes all over the place. If you will go and draw at your canvas, then you need to know exactly the dimensions. Play here, play there, and then connect all these things together. That helped me a lot to go out of this thing of the boxes of all of this crazy thing that's happening nowadays at the YouTube, that everyone is searching for a like or for an emoji, etc. Nothing to do with art or with personal taste.
Exactly.
Yes, everyone looks play the same. It's something that why to do this?
Yeah, no, I know, because it's the sort of thing like, you know, there's a lot of people who can do the Satriani thing or the, you know, Steve Vai thing or whatever. But the trouble is, you know, there is a Steve Vai.
Exactly.
He's still about, and even if he wasn't still about, his recordings are still about. So the point is, you don't want to be Steve Vai. You don't want to be anybody other than yourself. And again, you see, your story shows that you already had, you might not have felt it at the time, but you had an idea of who you were, you know, and that sort of desire to do something. And that's the thing I think is really important when you're teaching young musicians. It's like, who are you?
Yes.
Who are you? Because I say this to some kids and it's like, what do you mean? Who am I? I said, well, who are you? What have you got to say?
And what probably a student cannot understand, that you are not giving them just the information, you are giving them time of your life. Time of your life, I don't mean just the time that you're spending with them, but you are giving time of your life as an existence here on this planet at this moment. You are giving them something more. You are not in a factory and you need to just put this here and the other there. And what is I need to live. You are giving it's a private, it's a meeting between two human beings. You are giving them time. This is something, and you are giving, and probably they don't know that you will finish your lesson. You will finish your lesson, but they are still here. They will left, but you will be with them, and they will.
Yeah, that's really well put. It's really well put. That, like, I've often reflected on, like with my own schooling, the teachers that had a big impact on me, and what you remember are certain things, just little things that were said, but they could just literally be just a comment that was made, but that comment stays with you, like you're saying, like it stayed with me all my life, you know, just something that somebody said, and that only took a minute, if that, you know, a few seconds. A bit like you saying about looking at that picture of the Picasso, and in that moment you looked at that, and then you looked at what they'd written there, and then that it clicked. So really, Picasso, you know, you've been carrying Picasso around with you
all my life.
Yeah, and I think that's the point, isn't it? That because you can't encapsulate that idea. It's one of those things that's it's like wisdom, isn't it? You can't just sort of go and buy a bit of wisdom. It just turns up when it's there. But it's one of those sort of things. You have to be in a particular place in your own being, as you say, to be able to think that way. So yeah, that's really That's really well put, Pantelis.
You need to be ready. Yes, you need to be ready because that is that the half part of the truth is that you need to be ready because there are always things if you go out there that can help you or give you a solution to this way or the other. But you need to be ready because if I go back to this teacher that I was telling you before, that has nothing to do with art if you are preparing, except you have something that he didn't have it at his mind, unless you have something specific to do in a very big orchestra, and you need to program everything. Unless you will do this, then artists be ready, and mainly jazz need to be ready for the moment that will come.
Exactly.
Yes, the moment. That's it.
So you've escaped being a captain, right? Okay. You're now practicing like a maniac, as you said.
I used to do that, not now.
Yeah, no, so did I. So when do you get that sort of moment where you think this is happening for me? I mean, sometimes it's like
My mother told me.
Yeah, when it starts to sort of.
No, I will tell you. I was practicing in my room, but practicing not playing songs probably. But then I was going out and playing, had lessons. A guy invited me to play with a Greek singer, and actually she was on the Greek national TV. So I went and played with her for one night, and I was lucky, and my mother and my father saw me at the TV. So since that day, they accept me as a musician. This has nothing to do with the hours that I was practicing. I don't know if it was a playback or probably a live, but they accept me because they saw me there. It was that simple.
Yeah, sometimes it helps being on TV. That's great. It's brilliant.
Yes.
So were you then sort of doing a lot of gigs and stuff with different people, or?
Stuff with different people. If I will go back, I did some records, quite a few records with Greek singers, just like a studio musician. I was a studio musician. I went there playing probably some strange stuff because they always invite me to play the other position, show me some other stuff, not like the other guitarist.
Oh, okay, well, that's good. Yeah.
But it was okay. I did quite a few records with Greek singers, famous Greek singers back then, and I had something like a duet or a trio. Always take going to do some jazz gigs around Athens, and that was a very also. It was a nice period because I didn't know exactly what was happening. I had no idea about. I had just a few a small idea of what means jazz, and I used to play whatever I like. The audience was happy. Most of the time I was happy too, but since then not so much jazz lives. No. And this was something that was very strange. I had one of the guests that we had here at the school was Kurt Rosenwinkel. He's a fantastic guitar player. So I had Kurt here with me 3 or 4 times. We played together once, and he asked me, "Okay, brother, what are your records?" I said, "No records. I'm just a teacher." He said, no. Show me your record. I said, "No, man, I'm just teaching." He said, "No, you cannot do it to yourself. Yeah, arrange something to do together." We never do that. We never did that. But no, most of the time I teach. This is something I do. And a lot of time was spending for the exams, for the LCME exams.
Yeah.
a lot of time.
Yeah, yeah. So where did you get the idea to set up the school? You know,
Okay.
the school that the school that you do,
Yes.
the Music For.
Okay, the Music For.
Mm.
I was with my friend Trifonas Koutsourellis, that he's a great musician and composer, and we went out for a coffee back in 2006, 2006 or 7. And I used to have a big motorbike and going around Athens to several.
Really?
Yes.
As if driving around Athens wasn't dangerous enough in a car.
I didn't know if I told you, but I'm doing hang gliding. I think.
Yeah, but that's safer than driving.
Yes, exactly. I wanted to tell you. This is safe. Much more safe. Anyway, yes. So I was with my friend Trifonas, and we went out for a coffee after a session at the studio together. And he just told me, you need to stop doing that, going from one music school to the other. So many music school around Athens, and then private lessons. Yeah. So I said, Trifon, you're great. I think that it's time for me to start my school. And you know what happens? He said, where would you like to open your school? I said, at the center. I would like this area. So I named to him a few areas. And I told him, you know something? I will go straight there and I will search for a place to rent. So I just took the metro, the new metro in Athens. And probably I had so many thoughts in my mind that I get lost. And I stopped. Yes. And I stopped.
Yeah, go on.
Very much, yes. I stopped to this station here in Athens at the center called Keramikos. But imagine that. I went out of the train and it was the red carpet on the stairs because it was the first day and the first time that they opened the station. And it was the band of the Municipality of Athens playing music. Everyone was happy. And I said, where am I? This is not the place. But it's very nice. So I will do a walk. And the first place that I saw that was renting, I came here. That's it. I get lost and
That's amazing. That's brilliant.
Yes. I get lost, Vic. That is the truth.
Yeah, that's amazing. So the secret of finding the right location to set up a business, get lost, and there'll be a red carpet waiting for you. And I'm assuming that they weren't playing traditional Greek music, or were they?
No, probably playing some. I don't know what, but it was a big ceremony. That specific.
Yes.
I was the lucky one that walk on the red carpet.
Yes.
In the train station here.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's brilliant. I remember that when I came out, you were telling me that about the fact that there weren't that many venues to play in Athens, for like sort of jazz or rock or whatever.
Yes.
But obviously there was lots of places playing, music for tourists.
Yes.
And has that changed at all? Is there more music for people playing sort of jazz and rock and?
There are a few clubs. Used to be more, but it's really difficult because nowadays the situations, because of the COVID and because of the pandemic, it's very confusing, the situation. I don't know where you can play right now and to who you can play, because you need to be vaccinated in order to enter those clubs, and otherwise they don't let you go in. And it's really strange. There are some clubs, but not that big, and probably, to my opinion, not open to all ages and to all genres. There are sometimes the audience that will go to a jazz club is more or less musicians or people that would like to play jazz music, and yeah, that's it. And I don't know. We have some rock. Yes, Athens probably can have 3 or 4 clubs to play rock music. 4 or 5. I don't know. I'm not that much out, so I don't know more.
Yeah, no, it's interesting that, because again, what so I've made me aware that how spoilt for choice we are here, because there's loads of places to play, even when we think that there aren't that many, you know. But there are lots of different venues and what have you, and obviously in pubs and stuff like that, people are playing and things. And we haven't, obviously, you know, whatever music there is the music that people listen to. It's not like we're providing music for tourists or anything like that, which is an interesting problem, really, I think. Anyway, that's just another thing. So, so how's everything been? Because obviously, you obviously were in some sort of lockdown, I'm assuming, at one point where you weren't able to teach.
We were closed for last year. We opened the school in September, and we closed end of October, first days of November, and then we opened again June. That means that we lost the whole year. Nothing happened, and the same the year before. It is for 2 years now that just lessons from the Zoom most of the time, and yes, spending time. I'm not doing this, but I know from teachers that teach here in my school that they spend the first 10 or 15 minutes trying to open the Zoom, helping the student open the Zoom, open.
No. Yeah.
It's like we're educating people to the Zoom platform.
Yes, that's right. I know. Obviously, because I've been doing a lot of. I was already organised with things like Skype and Zoom the year before, because I had a heart attack and a stroke at the end of, in January of the year before. So I had to get all my lessons on, on Zoom, and it was Skype primarily. So when we got down to the thing about lockdown, it was like, oh well, we'll just, it's like, just do that, because it's like not a problem. But so I didn't have a sort of steep learning curve when everybody else was having that. It was sort of earlier on. So I don't think I had the sort of problems that most people had that came to doing this from having no experience of doing, because teaching, as you will know, across the screen is completely different from having somebody in a room.
Yes.
There are some things that you can do quite well and other things that you can't do at all. Because it's just difficult to get that connectivity on certain things that you're working at. But so it was interesting. So hopefully your numbers and everything kept up. Did they, numbers of pupils kept up all right?
Yes. It's not just the number of pupils. Sometimes the thing is nowadays, especially for me, and I'm trying to see what is the next day, what is the next step. Only yesterday, I had a phone call from a woman, a teacher that I don't know her well. I don't know her at all. So she wanted to speak to me, and I told her the same, that I'm not sure what is the next step. That is a situation that I don't like. And she told me, she was very easy for her to tell me that please, Pantelis, live for the moment, live for the day. This is something that we have forgot for yeah, because so many people listening to the news, how many victims will be today or tomorrow or the next day. trying to program it the next day, and then it's that is something that I was very confused. I don't know if this is the way. This is the way to say confused, because 2 years ago, with a friend of mine that she's a psychologist, I was telling her, we went out for a coffee, and I was telling her that you see, I'm teaching so many hours, and I only have the opportunity to see the sky from my window, like here I am. And I said, starting to bother me a lot, because I'm not out. I have no contact with the real world, because the real world is not me and the student, that's it, and then be in a cage like that. So that is why I started 2 years ago to go out more often, starting the hand gliding thing that I told you before, probably because I want to be more connected with what is going outside, because the last 2 years, we were so stressed to stay inside. Of course, the pandemic is here, but what about all the other things? And all the other things are...
Yes, yeah. Yes. I think you've said something really important. There is a level of mental unease amongst people, you know, and a lot of people are feeling depressed and all the rest of it. And it's not directly, well, some of it's to do with the fact that it's a non-stop, you know, diet of stuff coming at you from the media, telling you all this data, which, to be quite frank, you know what data's like. I mean, statistics are just, for the most part, nonsense, because it's like the interpretation of them. What do these figures mean relative to what? You know, all these numbers that get thrown around. You know, you think, well, it's sort of nonsense. It's like, yeah, you know, this stuff's out there and all the rest of it, but there's always been things out there. You know, always. You know,
it's like
I had a friend who sort of traveled a lot in Africa, and he's a herbalist, this guy. And he said to me, look, you know, he said, most of this is like, a lot of it's hype, you know. Yeah, okay, like a lot of things. Yeah, it's not nice. He said, but if we had an outbreak of Ebola, he said, I really would be worried. Right. So you hear things, you know, that going on in other countries, and they just live with it.
Yes.
Right. And you think, well, there has to come a point. I'm not saying that, you know, it's not frightening and all the rest of it. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that we've got to get to a point where we start having the courage to do things. And that does mean that, you know, there's a risk. There's a risk involved. But life is risky, isn't it? You know, that is it.
You know what I'm saying to my students, to all of my students, there is some parts, we have a basic philosophy here. One of those rules is that I always tell them that please get ready, because the moment that you will leave this building, please be ready, because there will be a stone that will fall on your head, and then you will have just 3 seconds to think, oh God, what did I forget to do? Because it's always like that. What you said before about this risk is always, you need to go out and wait for this rock to hit you. But the thing is that if you don't go out and will stay inside to your house without taking any kind of risk, then you will die without having just those 3 seconds to think about what happened in your life.
Exactly.
Okay, no stone, nothing at all. But this stone that will fall on your head will give you the 3 seconds just to think, oh, I forget this, I did that, okay, that's it, thank you. Now I'm ready to leave.
Yes.
Like that. And nowadays that so many talks about the pandemic, what we'll do, how much money we still have at the bank, what we can do the next day. Okay, it's not always like that.
Yes.
And I have a friend of mine, a very great guitarist. I was telling him about all those problems and what is the situation outside, and he told me that, look, in a situation like that, don't be ridiculous to wait for too many things, because yes, you are living in a society that they are pressing you to be and work in this way.
Yes.
Sorry, just give me a second. Give me a second to open the door. I'm alone here. That's why.
Okay, so yeah, no, that's interesting. I think that's, as you say, there's a lot of pressure coming in, from media and all the rest of it. And to be quite honest, as I say, most of it is just nonsense. When you look back at it, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and before I actually got involved in podcasting, and I had a podcast of the BBC News, like the conversations that were on the morning news program, where they'd have some expert come in and tell you what was going to happen with something or other, But of course, being a podcast, I'd listen to it, about a week later, and they were always wrong. You could have actually asked anyone in the street what they thought was going to happen, and they would be as accurate as these so-called, the pundits, the so-called experts. And I just thought, so why get hung up on what is being said? No one has a clue really what's going to happen. You just have to wait and see, and just get on with doing what you're doing, really, and just see what happens. But anyway, that's just that. So anyway, it's good to see you so well, and and so enthusiastic about music as always.
Yes. Music's life.
Yes.
Music life for me.
Yes, totally. So, just sort of wrap up then. What sort of I was going to say, so what sort of plans have you got? But it'll be just whatever.
Plans are visit you there in Kent. Probably visit you. Yes, it's a yes. I would like to.
Well,
yes.
That'd be good.
Yes, and we were waiting for some artists to visit us. I mean, there is a guitarist called Joe Smith, a blues guitar player, that we're waiting for him to join us here. Also, another band with Steve Gadd and Mike Landau.
Oh, wow.
Other musicians that will join us here. But unfortunately, due to the new facts of the pandemic, they will probably visit us next year.
Yes.
And also, I'm playing nowadays with a friend, and there is a possibility to go out and do a few gigs for here in Athens, and let's see what will happen. There is also another idea that a friend of mine told me, and he asked me to do something like a few videos of teaching the way I teach.
Yes.
So I told him that if you would like to, if you think that this is a good idea, what I think that we can do is like if you can come to my studio, then we can have a lesson together, and you can film it because he's a musician, and you can bring it out. And this is something that we will do the next days.
That sounds really good. That sounds really good. I think sort of videos of lessons like that, where you're showing a technique or a way of thinking about playing, is a really good way of explaining things. Because I mean, the stuff on YouTube is like, okay, it's all very well when somebody says, "Oh, you do this and you do that and whatever." But to get because I know a lot of the videos that you've put up where you talk about, playing over sort of a 2-5-1 thing, but using, you know, doing interesting things with the, like you were saying, with like the arpeggios or pentatonics or whatever. It's actually really interesting. It's not that somebody's going to sit down and work out exactly what you're doing, but it's the thing that sits behind it, isn't it? It's that sort of how you.
The thing is behind. I spent so much time in my lessons giving students the wings to fly and see the information in so many different areas of the guitar, and see the same information with different fingerings, other different harmony, just to be ready. The only thing that is not complicated, that I always asking them not to be confused, that listen, here we're having a guitar lesson, we're having a music lesson probably, but this lesson has nothing to do with art. If you would like to make art, go outside. But probably some of the tools that I will give you, they can help you out there in this jungle. But that's it. And I strongly believe that all the schools has nothing to do with the pure art. The pure art is somewhere out there that I don't know where it is, because otherwise I will go and see a live situation with an artist. Yes. And but on the other hand, I'm feeling very secure with having seen so many things and having spent so many hours and years of my life. The only thing that right now I'm more secure, and secure is not the right word. I'm secure about the information, about the way to bring the students, just to help them doing the first steps. That's it. I'm feeling secure with that. That's it. I think that I can do that. And so I always enjoy lessons. Trying to change. And I found myself to be more helpful, because nowadays, because of the YouTube videos and all the stuff that's out there, when I ask them, I'm telling them that please don't, whenever you're playing, don't count, because you can count with music and not with 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Count with music, playing a phrase. This is one measure. That's it. 2 measures. Okay. Listen to this.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not count the time, because this is something for the kids, or just to go out and read the music, but not listen.
I know. I tell you, one of my bugbears, one of the things that really irritates me is when you get people go, and then it goes down, up. That really just drives me mad. It's like, if somebody had told me that that's what guitar playing was, I would never have started.
Listen to this. During my first years as a teacher, I was in private school, so my class was very close with a piano teacher. I will never forget. I was about 19, 20, and there was a beautiful blonde girl at the right class with perfume, a lot of perfume. I will never forget her perfume.
Yeah, I bet, yeah.
Around 3, 4 o'clock at the afternoon, I had my lesson with Michalis, and she had always the same student. So what she did is, I was listening to her, and she said, okay, let's start. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, stop. Mistake. Let's go again from the beginning. 1, 2, and see, always this student around the next measure, always a mistake there. But I was listening this 1, 2,
yeah.
And I was listening to this sound. It was so. After a month, I went inside her class, and I said, "Sorry, Katerina. Katerina was her name. Please help me, because whenever you count, I can hear you." But I went close to her piano, and you know what I saw there? It was all on the piano at her,
yes.
child, because of the pencil
Yeah.
Like signs all over the piano. And I said, are you crazy? I didn't believe that. She was signs all over the piano because she was counting the pencil. 1,
Yeah.
2. No. She didn't respect her piano. She didn't.
No. It's bizarre.
Bizarre.
Yes.
Counting the time. 1, 2. That's secure. I'm not that secure to count the time like that. I'm not that secure.
No.
It's something. It's something else. Anyway.
Well, that was a brilliant chat, Pantelis. Thank you very much for your time. As I say, it's great to see you again. And yeah, you need to see more of that lovely Greek sunshine.
Yes. Thank you for this invitation, Vic. And you know that you are always welcome.
Yes, well, at some point in time.
Yes, please. If you arrange to visit us at the summertime, you know that we are great and a lot of beautiful Greek islands here.
Yes, I know. Well, I used to turn up in the winter when everybody was. I thought it was nice and warm, and everybody was shivering. I remember
driving with you around Athens. How strange it was for you the very first moment. Yes, the very first year that you visit us.
Yeah,
it was strange. Okay, then.
All right, then. Thanks ever so much. Speak soon.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye. Big thanks to Pantelis. Again, details on the show notes, so you can find out about what he does. Also, lots of interesting stuff on Patreon for me, and the stuff that's going on with Icaro. So if you know of anybody who's interested in supporting young kids learning to play musical instruments and also write songs, all that stuff's on the show notes. So until next time, see you then.